nostalgia tour. Today we will be taking a nostalgic tour through Moshi Monsters. Did I say that right? Moshi? Yeah, Moshi Monsters. Now, growing up, I actually never played Moshi Monsters. The only computer in the house growing up was my mother's laptop. And anytime I wanted to play any computer games, I would have to ask her, and then she would automatically put me on either Dress-A-Poo or Webkinz, and told me if I ever got off those websites that I would get in trouble. And little me and also big me are both terrified of getting in trouble. So I listened, and I had to miss out on the Moshi Monsters. Yeah, that didn't stop it from being popular with the other kids in the school. Okay, so let's take a nostalgic tour through Moshi Monsters. Back in 2000, back in the 2000s to early 2010s, there was a big boom in virtual worlds. Even though nowadays we don't really see these types of games anymore, but back then they were a very huge part of the internet. Adults had websites like Twitter, Facebook, and MySpace, while kids had Webkinz, Movie Star Planet, and Neopets. Actually, a lot of this whole virtual world stuff can be traced back to Neopets. Neopets was the first online browser game launched in 1999, and it actually wasn't originally created for kids, but the colorful creatures and the cartoony style and the addictive gameplay did bring kids in by the millions. And soon big companies realized that online virtual worlds were extremely profitable, and also that kids are very gullible when it comes to online advertising. And soon there came dozens and dozens and dozens of virtual worlds, some popular, some not, some I played, some I didn't, and the rest was history. So Moshi Monsters was developed by Mind Candy, and the development of Moshi Monsters began in 2007. One of the creators, Michael Smith, said how he's seen kids' love of technology and thought the internet was going to be the next big entertainment media for kids. Moshi Monsters launched in May of 2008 with minimal success, surprisingly. It took about a year and a half before the game suddenly took off in summer of 2009. From there, it only grew and grew before its unfortunate shutdown, and actually by the time of its shutdown, it had over 80 million players. Moshi Monsters is basically a pet care simulator. You'd have to keep your monster happy and healthy and by playing games with it, feeding it food, and you actually had to keep coming back to check on your monster, or else its health would drop. The monsters don't die if their health drops low enough. They just kind of get sad and stinky. And the rest of the game was pretty standard stuff. You can level up your monster, decorate your home, dress up your pet or monster, earn rocks, which was the in-game currency, play games, puzzles, and you could even chat with other players. And there was a ton of mini-games, and I mean a ton, from Thumper Glump to Quicksand, and there was that, the ice cream game, Moshling Boshling, and the secret members only disco, which was basically just Guitar Hero. Another cool feature in the Moshi game, I keep wanting to say Moshi because of the way it's spelled, but yeah, it's pronounced Moshi. A cool feature in the Moshi game was that there were these little mini pets called Moshlings? Okay. And you would get them by planting certain seeds in your garden, and then you would have to wait real world hours. And then once your plants grew, you would get a moshling out of it. Moshling. Okay, I keep saying moshling. And you could, with your moshlings, you could display it or you could add it to your zoo, and there were a ton of these guys. I think there was over like 3,000 or something you could collect, probably more. And there were certain members only moshlings. There were certain only moshlings that only members or premium players could get, and so yeah, having the members only moshlings, I said it right the first time. Moshlings combined with the whole seed system with the garden, and you had to spend a lot of both in-game and real-world money to get even a decent amount of moshlings. Much like Animal Jam, with kids with the membership or players with the membership were treated like kings. Some things you could do once you had the membership was you could add stories onto your house. You could decorate it with exclusive members only items. You would earn double XP, more rocks. And you could play exclusive games like the Secret Guitar Hero game that was in, I think, almost every commercial, or at least every commercial I remember watching. You would have access to exclusive members-only areas, and you could get the rare moshlings, Moshi Monster moshlings, and you could display even more. But one thing that members could do was color. So, let me explain. So in Moshi Monsters, the ultimate status symbol was being able to recolor your monster. There was a members-only building called Colorama, which allowed you to recolor your monster any color you wanted. While all the normal players were stuck with the default colors, you could walk around in pinks, vermilions, chartreuse, or the most famous color combinations of all black with red eyes, or black and white, sometimes with red eyes because it looked cool and edgy and emo. Moshi Monsters did come under fire a few times for marketing and paywalling many of their games. Features were locked up behind membership or premium currency or actual paywalls, which you had to pay real world money to get. But we're going to get into that later. I want to talk about the Moshi Monster merch. So obviously Moshi Monsters was big, but just how big? Because a lot of these virtual worlds don't make in real world merch. Like I remember I played Webkins. Webkins had the pets, which was, I guess, classified as real world merch. But I remember like Wizards 101 didn't have any real world merch. Club Penguin did once it was bought by Disney. There's a few hundred virtual worlds that don't get it popular to make real world merch, but Moshi Monsters did. It was so big it branched out into merchandising, and I'm not just talking about plushies and t-shirts. They were making stickers, shirts, silly bands, tons and tons and tons and tons of books and magazines. Trading cards, plushies, Monopoly, a DS game, actually I think multiple DS games, pillow pets, regular pets, bedspreads, beanbags, slippers, jammies, toothbrushes, calendars, charm bracelets, hair bands, band-aids, barrettes, puzzles, notebooks, binders, book bags, lunch boxes, pretty much every school supplies you could think of. And I actually remember the crazy amount of Moshi Monster merch that was just lined up in the Toys R Us. And when the back to the school stuff came to Walmart, how there was so much Moshi Monster stuff, and I remember wanting this stuff so bad. I really wanted the Moshi Monster merch, and I regret not grabbing it because I remember, because I was unable to play the online game. I was in elementary school when this happened. I was unable to play Moshi Monsters online, and there were actually, I think almost every girl in my class did, and they told me that I couldn't buy any of the merch because I didn't play the game, and I believed them, and I look back on it and I regret it so much. I want my Moshi Monster stuff even though I never played the game. Anyway, moving on, they even had a monthly magazine published all around the globe for 8 years before its discontinuation in 2012. Moshi Monsters even released an album called Music Rocks, which went gold. But the biggest money makers of all in all of the Moshi merchandise was actually the Moshlings. Not only were they pretty much on every piece of merchandise, shirts, bags, lunchboxes, stickers, pencils, pencil sharpeners, markers, but due to their collectible and addictive nature in the game, they also made the perfect blind bags, perfect blind bag toys, and Mind Candy made so many blind bags of these guys. And then in 2012, they made a Nintendo DS game called Moshling Zoo, which I actually had, and I remember I beat it like 5 times and then traded it in for something else. Yeah, I did have that. I may not have played the original game on the computer, but I had the Moshling Zoo DS game. Whew. By this time, Moshi Monsters wasn't just a simple computer game anymore. The online world just became its own brand, and somehow Mind Candy turned a simple computer game about taking care of goofy little looking monsters into a multi-million-dollar global brand with best-selling video games, record deals, and millions of dollars of merchandise being distributed across the globe daily. So how did Moshi Monsters go from this once profitable, popular brand to a distant memory? Yeah, right before its unfortunate shutdown. Let's find out. So the shutdown can be pinned to 2 things. 1, fading relevancy, and 2, the shutdown of Flash in 2020. Or the shutdown of Flash. So, in 2020, Flash Player, the foundation that had hundreds and thousands of games and other web media on it, was discontinued. The shutdown of Flash rendered all of that web content, all of those games, all of that media gone. Just disappeared off the face of the earth. So now all of that stuff is pretty much almost lost media, I guess. Now, Mind Candy could have remade the site like many other online virtual worlds did once Flash did shut down. But that's where the whole fading relevancy part kind of comes in. Moshi Monster's biggest competition not only were other neighborhood virtual worlds, but also the mobile market. This was the early 2010s. The era of mobile games: Angry Bird, Where's My Water, Poe, Talking Angela, Cut the Rope, Subway Surfers, Temple Run, Doodle Jump. That's where all the big money was. Yeah, all the big money was now in the App Store, and kids were now getting little iPods and iPads, and they weren't They didn't ask for Mom's computer to play games on it anymore. They had their own little computer right here in their hands. So now, and because of the App Store, all of these online virtual worlds didn't just have competition with each other, but now they had competition with both each other and also the entire mobile market. Mind Candy did invest a lot of money into the mobile market in 2013, trying to keep Moshi Monsters relevant, but none of their little games stuck, much like what Animal Jam did, how they tried to create mobile games, but none of them really stuck. It was clear that Moshi Monsters was on a slight decline, and December 19 of 2019, Moshi Monsters officially shut down after 14 years. But good news, Moshi Monster fans were quickly got to work to recreating their favorite monster-themed online world. And out came Moshi Monsters Rewritten. It had everything down to the last detail. It had all of the monsters, the minigames, the moshlings, and membership was free, much like in most of these fan-made, remade virtual worlds. And as far as I know, I believe it's still up to this day. I'm not 100% sure, but thank you for taking this nostalgic tour with me. I'll see you next time. Bye!